Hey guys, welcome back to Javon Rule 16. I am your host Javon, and today we have a brand new video. Today I'll be testing out the GTX 960 in a suite of the modern AAA games, and you know what, we'll probably put some from the past in as well, just to give it somewhat of a chance, because this is going to be brutal. Anyway, the GTX 960 2GB variant, of course, we don't have the 4GB variant. 2GB is much more common. We're running with GDDR5 Hynix memory, and it's going to be a disaster, I'm telling you now. Regardless though, we are pairing it with an i3-10105 with 32GB of DDR4 RAM and dual channel memory. The speed is 2667 MHz, as that is what the motherboard supports, and every game will be run off of an SSD here today on the channel, just to give it the best possible chance it can. Will it help? Probably not. Regardless, as you can see, my clock speeds are default. I haven't overclocked anything. We will raise the power limit to the maximum, but that's about it. And we're going to jump into this. I purchased 3 of these here for like 33 bucks, so this actually cost me $11 if you're actually thinking about it. I bought a lot of 3 for just 33, so that's $11 for a GTX 960. That is insane. Regardless, for the performance I get out of this card. This card can still handle some games, but you know, it's definitely reached the end of its life cycle. Anyway, let's jump into the first game. You have been lied to. At 1080p low FSR Ultra Performance, Forspoken is still an unplayable mess. The 2GB of VRAM just isn't enough to run this game, unfortunately. This graphics card is on life support in most titles. Anything new is way too much for it, unfortunately. We're even using over 16GB of RAM. I've never reached that height in any other GPU other than this one, simply because we just don't have the VRAM. It's unfortunate. The FPS is just terrible. This game is not playable on a GTX 960. Moving on, we do have a Plague Tale Requiem next on the channel, which at 1080p low resolution optimizer set to ultra performance, it is somewhat seemingly playable. I am surprised by this, and not at the same time. This game can scale very well, and not at the same time, especially when you put up the higher settings. A lot of the settings don't change much, but it does seem like we are able to hit over 30 FPS, or just about there, at 1080 at the lowest preset at 1080p, which I've tested all these games at 1080p today, so that's rough regardless. Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered is another one that can cause issues, but at 1080p low FSR Ultra Performance, I actually didn't see any slowdown in this game. Normally when you max out your VRAM, it will slow down in certain areas, but it seems that these settings, it didn't. I was very surprised by this. The game somewhat performed well. We are losing it drops the frames very quickly, but it stayed over 30 FPS for the entire run of me swinging around the city. I thought that was pretty good, all things considered. We're using 11GB of RAM, and once again the VRAM is completely maxed out because of course it is, but yeah, very low and it runs. I can't say much else. We always have to go back to the classics for this one. In Grand Theft Auto 5 1080p on the very high preset, we were able to see very high frame rates. Once again, it's an older title, but you know, people love this game, so I always test it out no matter what. We're using less than 2 gigabytes of RAM, and it runs very well. There's not much else to say about this one. It's just gonna run well on a lot of hardware.
JB's tow truck, it ain't got glamour, but it's some money to be made. So him and Tanya can smoke crack in peace. I'm good. Hey, dog, we be doing Simeon a disservice if we, hey, you don't see me driving here? If we ain't test these rides out. We ain't even gonna know if they could if we don't push it to the brink. You feel me?
Now this one, I did not go into this one with any hope. With Ratchet and Clank at 1080p, very low, FSR set to ultra performance once again, I figured the second I ran down here, pain would ensue, and well, shockingly, it didn't at the beginning. The averages aren't bad, we were at 34, and it does stay over 30 FPS, but I do believe this will drop. Once again, this is probably one of the most intense areas of the game, the beginning area, and it does seem to be running well. Once again, we're using 14.5 gigabytes of RAM, which says that this is very heavy. The VRAM is completely maxed out once again, but the GTX 960 on life support, it's still hanging in there. It can't be denied, I suppose, or whatnot. I had no faith in this one from the start. It's Horizon Forbidden West at 1080p very low, and I mean very low, even maintaining turned off shadows, and FSR set to ultra performance. We were not able to maintain 30 FPS in game. It is very unfortunate. I don't think this one is playable, guys. I actually think you would probably have to go down to 720p, and even then, it still wouldn't work out well for you. This one is very, very, you know, demanding for a GTX 960 with its 2 gigabytes of VRAM. It's just not capable of achieving 30 smoothly in this game, unfortunately. Next up, we have the Callisto Protocol once again here. running, and this one actually surprised me. At 1080p on the low settings of FSR set to performance, the game does perform admirably well. As you can see, the frame rates are over 60 at the moment. We will dip below, but this will be a playable experience the entire time around. For a game that looks this good to be this playable, man, it is crazy to me. But this will be a fun experience. I do recommend using FSR, as if you don't though, it has the slowdown effect. So FSR is definitely helping here.
I got you. I'm sending in Squad 9.
See me.
Sir, Squad 9 is gone.
Hold your position.
Resident Evil 4 Remake will also play quite well on the GTX 960 at 1080p low at the FSR Ultra Performance. I did see the game running at some quite high frames, over 60, but due to the lack of VRAM, I also did see a bunch of stutter in a game that doesn't stutter. So that was crazy for me. That was crazy. But yeah, it will give you, as you can see, my 1% lows are at 10 FPS. It will stutter every once in a while, but I feel for the most part, if you frame cap this would actually run quite smooth. Still a great experience. The Final Fantasy VII Remake is wonderful. At 1080p low, the game always seems to perform well, dude. It doesn't matter the hardware. This is the type of game that runs on low-end hardware like crazy, and you'll love it for it, because you can really scale this down when you really want to, even on integrated graphics. But as you can see, just 1080p low, we are able to hold over 40 FPS on average. It is dipping below into the, the mid, it's even hitting in the 50s now. So that's actually pretty good. Those 1% lows are terrible, but I feel like that was just from me starting the game up. Regardless, we are using 8 GB of RAM, and 2 gigs once again is completely maxed out, but the game seems to be playing quite well here. This looks like this would be a smooth experience. We won't be holding 60 or anything like that, but, and the lack of settings doesn't help, so this is pretty much how I would recommend playing the game just like this.
Drop the weapon!
You got this.
Yeah, what he said. You're coming with us. You can't win. Damn it.
No. Let's go.
She was up to the task.
And last but not least on the list, with frame gen, we're using The Last of Us Part 1 at 1080p low with FSR quality set to the frame gen. Or is it just FSR frame gen? I can't even remember at this point. FrameGen really helps out this damn game. It is crazy what FrameGen does for this, dude. This actually breathes so much life into the GTX 960. It is playable here. Look at the frame rate for this one. But this is the last benchmark on the list, and it is playable. We're using 15 gigabytes of RAM, so you still probably need, I probably would recommend 32 for The Last of Us here at this point. It is being utilizing quite a lot of it for stability, and because of this, we're not seeing any stutters or anything of that nature, which is why we have 1% loads in the 50s still. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to please leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, and stick around for more epic content. If you guys enjoy seeing me test games like this on the channel where I do these big benchmark sweeps, leave a like and comment something you'd like to see me test next. Would you like to see integrated graphics? We do a video like this for integrated graphics. I probably will at some point. But yeah, I will see you guys on the next one.